We'll start with you, Stu.
Hey, Sean, just wanted to ask about Darrell Henderson, Taylor Rapp, Tyler Higbee, and Johnny Munt. They were all estimated as limited today. What does their outlook for Thursday look like at this moment?
Yeah, those guys just had their typical bumps and bruises. Don't expect that to affect their game status. You're mandated to give a practice status today, even though we weren't practicing. So expect those guys to be ready to go on Thursday, though.
Thank you.
Lindsay.
Sean, reviewing your film from last night, what did you see from your defense?
I mean, like I said after the game, I saw a good offense. I saw guys making plays for them. I saw us not really follow a lot of things that we had talked about as far as, how we wanted to be able to pursue, just some execution things. Everybody had a hand in it. We can all be a little bit better. And you give Cardinals the credit, but, that's kind of what I saw is kind of what was reflected in kind of when we spoke yesterday as well.
And then with Russell Wilson coming up, what's kind of the key for those guys to bounce back, especially on that side of the ball?
Yeah, I think just overall execution. I think getting a good tight plan together, making sure that there's clarity, understanding, and playing with an edge that, we're excited about an opportunity to respond. And so that's what we're looking to do. We won't allow one game to define us. It was not the outing that we wanted from anybody, myself included. But fortunately, we've got a short week to be able to dust ourselves off, get back up, and get ready to roll.
Kevin.
Speaking of that short week, Matthew Stafford was talking about how he hasn't faced Seattle in, I think it's 3 years. He said he has a lot of homework to do in a short period of time. How much of a factor is that for somebody like him?
Well, he's got great experience, Kevin. I think it's a factor, but he was in here studying. Got 4 good representative games that they've played this year to be able to utilize, playing them 3 times last year. So there's a lot of film, but they've done a nice job mixing it up. And like anything else, each game takes on its own identity. But I think the experiences that he can draw on, seeing a lot of different defensive structures throughout the course of his career will be beneficial. But want to make sure that, he'll do his part. He's a pro's pro, and he was in here kind of getting a jump on that preparation this morning early.
Mm-hmm. And you've talked in the past about using the first quarter of the season for evaluation. In a 17-game season, how does that work?
First quarter plus 1? I don't know. I haven't really thought about it. I just know that, I think the big thing that we focus on is being in the moment and being able to move forward the right way, whether it's coming off of a win or coming off of a disappointing outing like yesterday. And you got to be totally and completely present. You have to be able to move on, whether it be good or bad. And that's exactly what we're focused on. And so I think it'll be good to get a little bit of a break after this. But, our focus for the next 72 or whatever hours it is solely on the Seahawks and trying to make sure that we put together a good performance that gives us a chance to get the result that we're desiring.
Thank you, Sean.
Jordan.
Hey, Sean, you mentioned yesterday that you also felt like you maybe left some calls on the board. I'm paraphrasing you, obviously, but when you went back and looked at things and reviewed things, if you had much time to do that in a short week, what did those evaluations conclude? And then did they perhaps look at maybe those 4th down decisions that you made?
Yeah, so I think a couple of those things, like you just mentioned, I think some of the red zone calls, you'd like to be able to put our guys in some better situations. And then, there's a lot of things that we can all do a little bit better, but I'm always going to be critical of myself on some of the decisions that I can make, whether it's, do you challenge a play when we maybe have scored? Do you go for it on some 4th downs when we ended up attempting some field goals? And I think, like anything else, you don't want to second guess, because I do think that trust in your gut and trust in your preparation is important, but you also don't want to be naive to the fact that you do make mistakes and there's things that you have to be able to learn from. And every single game offers an opportunity for me to do that from within the role that I have. And yesterday, the ones that stand out, I think a couple of the red area calls, there's just some things where I felt like I could have put our guys in some better situations. And then there were some moments where I think our players would say, we had a chance to maybe come through and execute. And, and that's the best thing about football is that we can all look at each other, know that we're in this thing together. We're going to, do the best that we can to move forward the right way, be mentally tough. And fortunately, Thursday presents an opportunity for us to respond, like I said.
And Thanks. And then also when Matthew first came in, and I think a lot of the conversation was about the ability to problem solve in real time. And when it gets down to those short yardage situations, I think we've seen some new design and things, some successful things in the red area. But also when it comes to the expansion of maybe that menu of decision making, when it gets down to those late yardage situations, and especially in the shorter areas, maybe condensed areas of the field, do you feel that you guys want to continue to expand and evolve in that way moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're always trying to in those types of situations. I think it's also about execution too, whether, you go for it on the fourth down, being able to throw and catch. And I think that's a play that our guys would make a lot more times than not. But then also, all right, the versatile personnel groupings that you can activate where you have favorable numbers if you decide to run the football, so there's a lot to unpack in that question, but certainly that situation in particular, whether it's okay, did we have enough angles to maybe overturn the call if he had gotten in on the second down? On third down, probably, I know I could have had a better play than the sneak activated right there. And then the fourth down, can we execute? Do you have a lot of better plays that you can activate? The answer is yes on both fronts in that arena. And so every single play involves that kind of dialogue, that discussion. And then there's obviously an after action review that I try to do, on myself in addition to with our coaches and players on a weekly basis. And it was accelerated, but I don't think you want to minimize the importance of that as you move forward into your fifth game, even if it is, packed into a handful of days to get your preparation.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Gary?
I can't hear you, Gary.
No. Hello.
Now I
Okay.
got you.
Okay, sorry about that. Hey, you've said when the schedule comes out, you look at two things: the opener and where the Thursday night game falls. Do you like where this game is falling in the schedule in terms of earlier rather than late?
Yeah, that would be my preference. I like having a Thursday game. I think the main reason that I look at that, Gary, is reflective of, number one, for our players, being able to have a short turnaround with what that does to their bodies. The earlier you can have that in the season, the better, where there's not that accumulation of the wear and tear. But also, you'd like to see some sort of separation because this serves as a mini bye where the players are mandated to get 3 days off. And that's the approach that we've kind of taken anyways, giving them Friday, Saturday, and Sunday to get themselves rejuvenated, refreshed. And then if you have a bye, kind of similar to where we have it, feel like it situates itself nicely for our players, most importantly. And then there's an element, for the coaches to be able to get some time with their families. So, but the main reason is just earlier is better because it serves as a mini bye. And especially if it's a handful of weeks away from when your normal bye is as well.
And then, after that late touchdown, Robert Woods kind of flipped the ball. It looked, at least from the press box, he looked like someone who wasn't thrilled. And you could read that as he was upset with the fact that you guys, were still behind, or was it perhaps because he wasn't happy with the amount of targets he's getting? I'm just wondering how if you saw that, how you read that, and if you're at all concerned about, spreading the wealth among all of these talented guys.
Yeah, no, I'm not worried about Robert Woods' demeanor and disposition. He's a captain. He was frustrated because, I think that was a flip of, all right, hey, we scored, but that was a frustrating day for all of us. Nobody wants to be in that situation with the standards, the expectations that we have. But if you look at that drive, I mean, you talk about a guy that's competing the right way. He made a handful of plays on that drive. Look at him compete without the ball on the one screen that we threw to Van Jefferson. This guy's a stud in every sense of the word, Gary. It is important to be able to get a handful of guys involved. That's something that, I always want to continue to be intentional about. I think that's one of the benefits that we do have is we've got 5 eligibles, want to be able to spread that wealth while also making sure that, sometimes I'm calling plays where guys are the primary and the coverage doesn't necessarily dictate where the read goes. So when Robert's involved, that's a good thing for the Rams offense. That's something that we want to continue to see displayed. But, Robert is a leader, he's a captain, and he's been doing a great job up to this point. We just need to get him some more opportunities, and that starts with me.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Kyle?
Thanks, Artis. Sean, real quickly, I just want to say hello and introduce myself real quick. You're probably wondering who the heck this guy is, but I'm Kyle Kraska, news sports anchor at Fox 11, spent 20 years covering the Chargers in San Diego. So it's great to be
great.
speaking with you.
Nice to meet you.
My pleasure. Thank you very much. Let me ask you a little bit about the effectiveness of your running game early on in the game on Sunday. Your thoughts about the game and how that was going with Darrell Henderson, and then the reason for maybe getting away from it, if you thought you got away from it a little soon.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think I got away from it. I thought it was effective. I think our guys did a nice job getting removal. I think anytime that you have the 2 turnovers and then you kind of get out of hand where, they possessed the ball for a good bit of time towards the latter part of the first half, and then they had a long possession to start the second half. And then before you know it, it's a 27-13 game. We had a chance to score on a play that we just missed, and then we ended up missing the field goal. And then the next thing you know, when it could be 27-20, you end up getting the ball back. You're down a few possessions, and it kind of gets away from you. And so the situation dictates a little bit different approach. You always want to be able to, make sure that you can possess the ball, and then we are able to run it effectively. You want to be able to do that, but ultimately it's about trying to win the game, and that was kind of the approach. But I was pleased with the way we were able to run the football, and I thought Darrell was a real bright spot yesterday.
Greg.
Hey, Sean, we know you had a lot of assistants on your staff in the 5 years, and you stay close with a lot of them. What's your relationship like with Shane since he left for the Seahawks, and how much do you talk? How much have you paid attention to how they're doing and what they're up to?
Oh yeah, no, Shane's great. Shane and I have had a great relationship. Loved working with Shane. Shane was an instrumental, foundational piece of everything that's gone on since I got here and since we got here as a new staff back in 2017. We were together in Washington. I'm pulling for him every time. A lot to do well, except for when we play these guys. And so I've kept up with them, familiar with what they've done. As I would anyways. But you're especially interested because it's one of your buddies, and Andy Dickerson's there as well. But we still keep in regular touch. Really happy for the success that he's had, except for on Thursday this week.
Then we wrap up with Lindsay and Jordan.
Sean, just to follow up on that, with Shane being in Seattle, what similarities are you seeing the Seahawks do on offense that obviously Shane may have brought with him from LA?
Yeah, a lot of the stuff that we've done has always been a collaboration. It's not exclusive to me. So Shane and I and the rest of our coaching staff have kind of put it together for what the Rams offense looks like. He certainly has his own spin on things in Seattle where you can see, he's got a long history dating back to his time in New England. When he was at Notre Dame, he's had a lot of great experiences prior to even us connecting together in Washington and then being here for the 4 years in LA. So he's doing a nice job marrying the run and the pass. You can see they've gotten some good play action shots going. They've done a nice job of being able to get Metcalf and Lockett involved in a variety of ways, but he's also, like any good coach does, let's tailor the system to our players' skill sets. And always starts with Russell. I think he's doing a nice job, and Russell's obviously made some outstanding plays, but getting Lockett, Metcalf, those guys involved. Swain's made his plays, and then you can see Carson as a dynamic playmaker. And when prior to last week when he was missing, Gerald had done some good things, as has Disley. So they've got a lot of playmakers, but I think it's Shane's putting his own spin on it. But there's some elements of some things that would look familiar to you guys. But it's certainly, it's the Seahawks offense for sure. And he's done a nice job through the first 4 weeks without a doubt.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Jordan.
Hey, Sean, I fear I might kind of be coming off like a broken record here every week, but in terms of this rate of success on the explosive plays against your defense, how do you balance, working through and implementing that philosophy that literally built your defense to contain those plays and stop those first and foremost, and then the ripple effect that comes after that schematically, and then integrate that plus maybe bring along some guys who are still learning, and also kind of clean up those execution things as well as continue to build on that philosophy.
Yeah, I think you look at a lot of them specific to the pass game when the ball's in the air. I'm not talking about run after the catch, things like that. We still have had a roof on the coverage in a lot of instances. It's just, okay, there's still an isolation to be had. And sometimes it's a guy just winning a jump ball situation. You look at a couple of those plays from yesterday, one of them is, you've got deep defenders in their zone, and Kyler just recognizes a one-on-one and throws it up to some big targets that are making some great plays, whether that be Hopkins, AJ Green, those guys, they did a nice job. And then, they pop a long run. We were in kind of a different front structure on a third down and, a longer situation when they were backed up, and that kind of creased us pretty good. But there's a narrative behind all of them. And I think what we're continuing to do is figure out, all right, there's a philosophy that you want to activate within this defense, but it always is about the players and continuing to find that balance of, all right, how do we really play complementary football as a team in all three phases? And that's the one thing that I think as a head coach, I didn't do a good enough job, overall, and saying, all right, how do we really put all three phases together to play complementary football, which I think we've done a fairly good job of through the first 3 weeks. Yesterday, that wasn't reflected. We give the defense a short field on the one turnover that Sony put the ball on the ground. We got a chance to really grab momentum of that game. I thought we should have scored a touchdown on the opening drive if we execute a couple plays that guys typically make. We come away with 3 points. Defense gets a good stop. And then when we've got a chance to be able to hit another shot to Deshaun, guy makes a good play, but we missed an opportunity to be able to really, take a chokehold of that game early on. We didn't do those things. They did, but the explosives that I think you're probably referring to, each one has a little bit different narrative, but you do feel like the intent's there, and then it's about making it come to life in some of the execution. And, you give these offenses credit. They've done a nice job in some instances as well.
And sorry, Artis. Thanks, Sean, for taking one more. This defense, I think characteristically, you hear a lot about how it requires patience to run it and to stay true and really commit to certain concepts within it. Does that also apply to fostering growth within it in terms of having those things that you just mentioned come along week by week instead of maybe expecting them all at once?
I don't think there's any doubt about it. I think that's with any process and any sort of maturation and growth that you want to exist. But I think it's also about, figuring out that identity that you want to really embody. And I think we're continuing to work through that. Most importantly, with our players, there's a lot of new pieces that we're asking to step into significant roles, whether it be from injuries or, just some different things specifically to the back end. You lose some key guys and that's such a vital part of it. And then how do you want to really be able to activate different front mechanics and structures and different things like that to make it all come to life where all three levels of the defense are seeing things as one. And so, this is so much a part of what all of the time that we spend in the office is discussed. And, I think the one thing that's important for us to do too is not let, a couple things that didn't go our way yesterday make us feel like there's any need to press the panic button. Let's take a step back. Let's take a deep breath. Let's look at the totality of it and then be able to make honest assessments and evaluations as we're trying to most importantly put our players in the right positions to have success on a weekly basis and then see that consistently, be represented through the remaining parts of our schedule that we're guaranteed.